Hey, everybody. I appreciate everybody for coming on such short notice. I know I started wanting to do different sessions every Tuesday at noon and forgot to actually put the word about this session until this morning. So it's a interesting experiment, I guess, to see. But the idea is to still do sessions every Tuesday at noon. But after this session, I'll go ahead and publish about next week, so that way I don't wait till the last minute. So lessons learned. But so I do appreciate everybody for jumping in, whether you're on LinkedIn or on YouTube. So, but if you have questions as we go along, if you want to say hi, if you want to introduce yourself to other folks, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, you can always share your LinkedIn information or URL in the chat as well, if you want. Not that you absolutely have to. So, hi Isaac, thanks for coming. So I appreciate it. So I did want to talk about actually LinkedIn today because it is, I think, one of the most undervalued resources that we have, and it doesn't matter whether you're looking for a job, which right, LinkedIn started as a and still serves as a kind of resume site where you can ideally connect with others and you can go ahead and perhaps find a job, find a new role, or connect with others that can help you find a new role. So, and that's definitely a big part of it still, and we're going to talk about that. So, hey, thanks for coming, Justin. I appreciate it. Mohammed, thanks for coming. So there's a big part of LinkedIn, right? That still is focused around connecting with people for jobs, and that's a big reason why I post on LinkedIn and YouTube, helping people get jobs, especially in OT or ICS cybersecurity. There's nothing better than when somebody says, "Hey, you helped me get a job," right? That's everything. So again, there's definitely a big part of that. So we'll talk about that. Of course, there's also this idea, right, that you can also use it to help build your. A lot of times, people talk about personal brand, right, which only helps you, become even more visible, ideally from a positive perspective, and that can also help you get a role. Right. I always tell people, you always should plan that maybe your role, just disappears tomorrow for whatever reason. A lot of times that's simply out of your control, especially if you work for a company and you could get laid off tomorrow, or that company could go bankrupt and you no longer have that role. I've been through that several times in my life. So definitely, it's one of those. I think the stronger your personal brand or the connections that you have, especially with LinkedIn, the better you're going to be if you do end up without your job one day. And then also, not only is it about jobs, but I just think of over the last 2.5 years since I've been active on LinkedIn, that how much more I've learned because we have, at least especially in OT, ICS, cybersecurity, and I think this goes for just about any field. You have some of the world thought leaders in the industry or in the field. You have people that work, you know, in the trenches in the field. And what I especially really, like about OT or ICS cybersecurity is that there's so much, right, we can look at, and there's so many different variations. And a lot of IT environments are very, very similar when you go from one to another. Where in OT or ICS, right, going into work in a power plant is very different than a water treatment facility, which is different from a manufacturing plant. And then, of course, every manufacturing plant, and every power plant, and every water treatment facility are different in their own unique ways. So there's not one person that has seen it all or done it all or worked in all of these environments. It just doesn't exist. So if you really want to learn more and more about OT and ICS and cybersecurity in these environments, again, you can continue to always learn as much as possible, which I always suggest. But one of the best ways to do that is through LinkedIn. And so, yeah, I think it's vastly underrated from that perspective. And I'm not talking about taking LinkedIn, learning courses. Not that there's not some great content out there. I know Gabe Agarbush has his intro to OTICS cybersecurity class on LinkedIn Learning, which I think is about an hour long. Um, and I've heard great things about it. So, so there's definitely the learning courses that are more formal, but I'm really talking about just connecting with the people in the field and sharing with them and learning from them. I've learned so much in the last 2.5 years because again, I've worked in some of the world's largest control system environments, but at the same time, like I'm not, everywhere, even if I want to. Like I haven't worked in water treatment. Um, in water or wastewater. It's just something I wasn't exposed to in 15 years at Fluor. The only water treatment we did was for essentially have in large data centers you have small water plants. But other than that, yeah, that was my exposure. So that's really what we're going to talk to. So I'll kind of walk through my LinkedIn and kind of show you a little bit of what that looks like, especially from behind the scenes, and then some of the resources that I've created, especially when it comes to if you are looking for other folks to connect with or follow on LinkedIn in the community. I have a great list to start with. So, but I appreciate everybody for coming. So thanks, Sarah. Welcome back, Oscar or Oscar, depending on which part of the world you're in, I guess. Pranji, thanks for coming. Yeah, no, definitely like Pranji. Feel free to share your LinkedIn profile if you wish. Daniel, thanks for coming. James, thanks for coming. So always appreciate it. So Patrick, Gokhan, and Caesar. Yeah, we kind of connected the other day, which is cool. So I'm glad you're able to stop in. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and share my screen and let me pull up LinkedIn first. Uh, and then I know that I always am interested when um, I get like see other people's LinkedIn, what it looks like kind of from behind the scenes, or also when we're looking at um, um, like a YouTube dashboard. So like when you look at those different types of things, which are pretty cool. I'll minimize the messages. Not that there's anything crazy, but not that folks necessarily I don't know want their messages out there. Um, but so hopefully everybody can see this. Sometimes it's hard when, of course, when I'm sharing and can't really look at the chat, but I'll jump back and forth, and hopefully it stays hidden in in the background. So, and if you have any questions as you go along, please definitely drop them in the chat. So, again, there's really a couple of things that I want to talk about when it comes to LinkedIn. Again, this session, there's no slides. I do always a lot of slides. There's no slides. I didn't like really prepare. There's no script for this. It's really just again this conversation. I feel that I've wanted to have for a very long time because I feel like I know posting on LinkedIn has changed my life. And even if you're not interested in posting content on LinkedIn, there's still so much to take advantage of. And a big part of LinkedIn, of course, is everything that shows up in the feed, right? And it's really interesting. Of course, LinkedIn changes the algorithm on a fairly continual basis, right? LinkedIn is still owned by Microsoft. They're always trying to make sure they get as many people engaged in the platform, staying online, right? Staying online on LinkedIn as much as possible. And so, of course, they want you scrolling, they want you reading, help promote, organic content that people create, that people are, drawn to, right? And we'll talk a little bit. I think we'll have a little bit of time to talk about how that works. So for folks that are interested in posting content on LinkedIn, or maybe you already are posting content on LinkedIn, yeah, there's definitely some little tips and tricks to talk about, right? So there's a lot in the feed. Of course, a lot of your feed comes from who you're connected to, right? Not only who you're connected to, but also topics that you are drawn to, right? So I think LinkedIn tries to do a good job of getting content in front of people, right? That they want to see, right? It's just like on YouTube or any other social media platform, right? Their whole purpose of the algorithm in in many respects is to keep you on the platform, and the best way to do that is to keep showing you content that you're interested in. So as you can imagine, a lot of my content is related to ICS or OT cybersecurity, or at least OT and ICS and engineering in general. So that's a vast majority of what you see, right, in my feed. So if you look at, and let me go ahead and share another screen, is actually on my website itself. So let me swap over to if I can get the right one. There we go. So you can see this is my website that special thanks to my girlfriend to that who put that together, because the last one was very I'm very simple, very practical. It was very simple and very practical. It was not as cool. But if you look on if you go to mikeholcomb.com, and you can see that there's the resources tab or page. She actually took the time, believe it or not, to um, she went through LinkedIn, and I use Canva on the back end to create all the infographics. So she got a bunch of my infographics from between LinkedIn and what was in Canva and put them together. And you can see she even actually went ahead and grouped them by category. So yeah, she was amazing for doing this. So you can see fundamentals, defense strategy, right? AI prompts, different resources and careers. So if you ever want to find any of my resources, and these are the high res versions, so the lower res that gets posted to LinkedIn, right? Because pictures can only be so large. So these are all the higher res versions. But if you keep scrolling through the list. There's really two of these infographics that I wanted to point out today, and one is the ultimate resource list for ICS OT cybersecurity, right? And so in that case, right, that's a collection of here's some of the top books I talk about. Usually I talk about the top 10. I couldn't get 10 to fit, but you see there's the top nine, right? Free training. So from CISA, that's all online. Plus, they do have the higher level courses you can actually go to in person in Idaho for free. And of course, my YouTube channel, the different high levels. The different certifications, right? Some of the podcasts I need to update that because some of the podcasts have shifted around, some have gone defunct, um, or they're just not as regular or consistent, unfortunately. So a lot of those are falling by the wayside, which is sad. But and then the different conferences. So and of course that we're kicking off the big OT ICS cybersecurity conference season starting in February. So with S4, and then besides ICS is the day before. So of course, if you're coming to Miami, we'd love to have you on the Monday before S4 at B-Sides ICS. So we've got a great lineup. So hopefully we'll see everybody there. So that's one resource to check out. And then here's the other one that I was wanting to mention for this session. So I put this together, and the idea is this is not a complete list of everybody that you can connect with or follow on LinkedIn, but it's the list that for me, for the people that have been the most influential, the most welcoming, the most active on LinkedIn and in the community. This is the folks that come to mind for me. So if you're, you know, wanting especially to see more OT or ICS cybersecurity content in your LinkedIn feed, right? Definitely, you know, look at least following, if not reaching out and connecting with these folks, right? I think these are all great people that work and have been in, not only in the field and the community for quite some time, but they're all very dedicated in the mission. And I've learned a tremendous amount of from all of the people that are on this list. So again, it's definitely, a great resource for connecting with others that are out there. I would also say, while all these people are very busy, if you're looking for a mentor, it doesn't hurt to reach out to ask if they might be able to potentially mentor you, or at least maybe point you in the direction of somebody else. So, uh, so it's one of those resources that I like to show, because when we're talking about LinkedIn, that it's really about connections, right? It's really about being part of the community, and so you really want to be, connected with those individuals, or at least following them, so at least you'll get some of their content. So I'm going to go back to the LinkedIn screen though, because one thing that you want to keep in mind also is that, like, when I post a post, yeah, I post 11 o'clock every day, 7 days a week. And when I post, only about 3% of my community, right, of all my connections and followers will actually see that post. Yeah. Which is a little like disheartening at times, right? If you want to make sure that you see all of the posts from somebody, like we just look at Alan here, right? I think if we go into his profile, and then there's the little bell right here. If you click on that bell, right, then you can see that they're trying to determine what's most relevant to you. But again, you're not going to see all of their posts. But if I wanted to see all of the posts from Alan, I could just click on all, right, and then save that. And then at that point, anytime he posts, I'll actually get an alert under notifications. So it might not still appear in my feed, but I'll actually get a notification. Like, I'll see if I can find one. Usually there's, well, here, like this one from Anna. So I follow Anna over at Industrial Cyber, right? Because I think if anybody stays on top of news, items in the field, it's Anna, right? So I want to make sure that I get every single post from her, right? Don't want LinkedIn to leave that out. So that would be an example of somebody where, I had gone into their profile, and then you can see it's got the special little bell, right? Because I've got all posts shown, right? So again, best things to do is, one, right, connect with, or at least follow as many people in that field that you're interested in. Of course, we're talking about OT or ICS, cybersecurity. So I've already put that list together. There's definitely a few folks that don't fit on the list. There's a few folks that, honestly, they're just not very nice people. So I don't want to help promote them either. Right. But I think this is a great list of folks that really actively contribute to the community, and they're just all great people, and that they're helping you learn, right, to how to secure our OT or ICS environment. Right. So so definitely, again, keep that list in mind, right? So connect and follow with people, right? And then that's going to be number one. And then if there's people that you're interested in following, right, and making sure you get an alert every time they post, make sure, go under their profile and click on that bell and set it to all. I think there's probably about 10 or so folks that I actually have that selected for, right? Because I just always want to see when they post. And honestly, some are related to OT, ICS, cybersecurity. Some they're just really good at posting on LinkedIn. So I watch what they're doing, right? And that's another thing that we'll talk about as well, is really how to, if you are interested in posting on LinkedIn, right? One of the best ways you can learn is just watch what others are doing, and we'll talk about some of the folks to follow for that, if you're interested. So we'll do that kind of more towards the later part of the session. So, but yeah, so that's again, I think for me, there's so much about learning that can take place on LinkedIn, right? So not only is it what's showing up in your feed, right? And a lot of that is driven by who you're connected to, right? Who you're following, right? Go back and click on the bell and say you're going to follow all the posts for certain pieces, for certain people, right? Because I think of also for myself, like when I post, and this you can see, this is what it looks like a little bit behind the scenes, and you probably have looked at this if you looked at your own profile. I do want to come back and talk about profiles, because if you are using LinkedIn to connect with others, and especially if you're using LinkedIn, right, to potentially look for a new role, right? This is definitely, where you want to spend a lot of your time, right? But in this case, I go back and remember, I always think that, out of all my posts, right? The ones that I get really excited, there you can see we're live, which is kind of funny. But you can learn so much from the comments, right? So those posts that have a really, especially that typically go viral or have a lot of more comments than they do, um, definitely are always super helpful. Like here, I think this is the one where there's a post about different resources, and then a lot of times people will chime in, or they'll add to the comments, say, hey, this is great, but did you also think about this, right? Or this is something else to add. Or David Formby, who created GRFICS, shared, oh, here's the updated link for where you can download the new version of GRFICS, which is a great virtualized environment that runs in Docker now. Right. So the older versions he had were all VMs, right? And they were really beefy VMs. So, and you had to run, I think it was like 4 of them to really build out the entire environment, which that makes it a little bit difficult for a lot of people. So you bring your system to its knees. And so it's really cool that he has the updated version. Like I wouldn't have known that if it hadn't been for LinkedIn. Right, and you can just go on, right, and have all these different conversations, again, learn from all, people from all different aspects of the community, and that they're all, from different environments, right? That's one of the things I mentioned. Again, I don't have really much experience in water treatment, right? And at the same time, it's like I've learned so much about water and wastewater environments from people on LinkedIn that, yeah, they actually work in water and wastewater, right? We can make those connections and have those conversations, and learn so much from reading the comments. I think that's what a lot of people miss with LinkedIn. And honestly, I would never have thought about this, because up till 2-ish years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was like everybody else. I would just go ahead and post on LinkedIn, or I didn't post on LinkedIn. I just had a LinkedIn profile so I could connect with people that I work with, or I would meet them at a conference, and you want to stay in touch even though you probably never will. And that's all I used it for. And then it's supposed to be kind of like this online resume or CV that hiring managers could look at. So yeah, so So again, there's so much that you can take out of LinkedIn. And maybe other platforms are like that as well. And I think of like when I think of like YouTube, you can watch videos and learn a ton. I just don't see a lot of like interaction in the comments. Some, but not a lot. And it's not like you would probably sit there and learn a lot. Again, that's just from my experience. Where LinkedIn, again, you have so many people in so many different areas of OT, ICS, cybersecurity, and so many different types of environments that they work and that they can share, their stories, right? And they can share, what they know, right? Again, it just for that, I mean, it's an amazing tool, and you don't have to pay anything for it, right? So I do have the paid account because I want to see the metrics on, how my post perform. And so you can see that if you're curious. Because if you go under like your profile and then there's like this analytics section, so you can actually see, oh, okay, my content views are going up. The number of followers I had, over the last 7 days is going up. And then you can see by how much, right? So, you know, obviously bigger numbers mean it's growing faster, and smaller numbers or hopefully negative numbers you don't don't see, but definitely can happen. But I can go in and see. I find it always fascinating. This is their new view. I absolutely hate because it starts with this cumulative view. This is what it's always looked like, right? So you can see over time. And you see over time, like the last week, everything is pretty. This is just like average performance, right? Nothing awesome, nothing horrible. You see it's coming down because of the weekend. And then I posted because about B-sides ICS yesterday. That was my post. So those don't. It's not a educational post that generates a lot of views. Or I can look at it, over the last 90 days. So again, you can get this idea if you are wanting to post on LinkedIn, right? And you want to grow your community or an audience, right? It is important, right, to be able to keep an eye on how your content is performing, because then you can start to understand, right, what people are connecting with, right? What topics people gravitate towards more, what they want to hear more about, right? A lot of people, right, want to hear more about like certifications in OT or ICS cybersecurity, right? That's a really popular topic, right? That's going to be it's the number one question I've always gotten asked. It's, some of my most popular viral posts, right? And you can see, some of these, spikes are probably around, there's some content in there around OT and ICS cybersecurity certification, right? Whereas I, post every once about the need for physical security in OT and ICS cybersecurity, and almost nobody cares, right? Which is horrible because it's a very important overlooked aspect in OT and ICS cybersecurity, right? But at the same time, and if I'm just posting for numbers, I wouldn't post about physical security and OT, ICS cybersecurity. But I still post from time to time on it because I do feel the message is super important and it needs to get out. So but yeah, and so you can use that, and I find it fascinating to see like which topics people gravitate towards and which, topics that people want to know more about. What are they really interested? Of course, AI, right? AI is big, right? Where things like, backup and recovery isn't so much, even though again, it's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's such a fundamental part of OT or ICS and cybersecurity. It's so important, but no one wants to read a post about it. So there's a fine balance, right? And I think I try to, yeah, I want people to see my content because that's helping more people either get into the community, or if they're in the community, they're working in a plant, maybe they haven't started their program yet, or maybe they have a security program, but they want to know how to improve it. Right? That's really all, those different groups. Those are the, try the people that I write the post for, right? So it is good to know, right, what people want to see and what they don't necessarily want to see. So, you know, and then there's just some posts that, it's I can see there's some LinkedIn, it's just like it's just broken some days, and I get that. And then there's other days where something just clicks and it takes off like wildfire. So definitely a lot of people the last couple months, and you can see kind of from this last couple months the organic reach, right? For folks like me, which I post on LinkedIn, I don't pay, to boost the content, right? A lot of people have been complaining that the reach has been down 50, 60, 70%. But I've always, hey, I don't pay, for the content to be out there or to boost it. So at the end of the day, I guess I can't complain. So I'm very thankful for the community that has built up around it. So but yeah, just a couple things to kind of keep in the back of your mind if you are leaning towards maybe posting content on LinkedIn. So and let me know in the chat, let everybody know if you are for something that you've been thinking about. I thought about it for a very long time, honestly, before I did. I just always was worried about what people would think, or they would think I was stupid, or they would say I didn't know what I was talking about. Um, but after I actually started posting, I got over that pretty quickly for the most part. So think Altair High says I missed the certification part. So I think what you're mentioning or thinking about, and I'll go back to, is the infographic that I have on my website. So if you go to MikeHolcomb.com, if I can reshare it, hold on. It's having let's see if it switches. Okay. So if you go to MikeHolcomb.com, and at the top is the resources page, and then you click on OT ICF, ICS infographics. So there are a bunch of, I do a lot of content, as we are just mentioning, around OT or ICS cybersecurity certifications. The one we were talking about is this one right here, where it talks about kind of the two main tracks of cybersecurity certifications in OT. So which is SANS, and then ISA, that has the ISA IEC 62443 cybersecurity, that they call the expert series. So, and then there's some one-offs from Exida and Tuve, but so you see some engineers that have those from time to time, but it's pretty rare, and you wouldn't see them really outside of the engineering world. So most people look to either SANS or ISA, IEC. But if you look through my post, it doesn't take you long before you see more content around certifications, and then I do have the videos on YouTube that go through all of those. In fact, this session last week talks all about the OT ICS cybersecurity certifications. So definitely check that out. You can always ping me if you have any questions around those. So hopefully that helps answer. Kapil is asking, can you talk about any posts regarding virtual OT cybersecurity labs? Yeah, actually, in fact, if you're looking at this screen, there's a few right there. This is one of the more recent ones. So there aren't a ton of virtualized labs, but honestly, there are more today that there was almost nothing a year ago. So we can't, complain. But also, it's very cool because you have folks like Zachar Bernhardt who created LabShock. So LabShock is a very cool environment. In fact, I have it here. Why don't I just spin that up while we're talking? So if you haven't seen LabShock, you'll actually get an idea. It'll take a second. And then so LabShock is definitely the place, I tell everybody to start. Uh, and then GRFICS, version, the new one that we were just talking about a little bit earlier that David Formby had created. And that's the one that's also containerized. I haven't got a chance to play with the new one. I just was talking with him at the Atlanta conference last week. Um, about it. So that's another version 3. In fact, actually, you can see that list version 2. So version 3, which just came out, is really cool because their idea was not only does it have a control system environment that you can attack, and then they walk you through that. So it also helps you understand how to defend the environment, but also it has this 3D kind of simulated like walkthrough, so it's like you're walking through the plant doing a physical security assessment. So can you find things like unlocked workstations or doors that are propped open, which I find all the time, which absolutely drives me crazy. Um, Passwords on sticky notes next to a monitor, those types of things. So looking for those physical security issues that you can spot just by doing a walk around. So there's different honeypots, right? Systems that are created to be hacked that you can play with and um, test with. So Conpot is probably the easiest one for people to work with. There's Teapot, which actually comes from T-Mobile of all places, believe it or not. They stopped development on it, I think 3 or 4 years ago, though, and I think Conpot's probably 2 years without any more updates. So can always suggest people use Conpot. You can build your own. When I do all my classes now, I build virtualized environments using ChatGPT. I'm not a developer, but ChatGPT, and I also use Gemini at the same time. So I try to have both, and which one works better. It's like, oh, okay, I want that. I've created almost literally like 2,000 scripts at this point. So it's a little ridiculous. So, and there are learning platforms. I'm actually working with, and we haven't made it official, but helping Try Hack Me build out a track for learning OT ICS cybersecurity. So I'm really excited about that. And then Hack the Box has Alchemy, which is a dedicator. It's like $50 a month, so it's not cheap, but it's a fully built out OT environment that they built with Dragos. So it simulates a brewery, and then you actually go through that entire process. So that's really exciting, and it's worth the money if you have the additional resources. So yeah, so I'd say those are definitely the virtualized environments that you want to be checking out, Cup Hill. So hopefully that helps. But again, remember you can find those on my webpage at mikeholcomb.com. Again, special thanks to Mary Catherine for I achieved days into that. So she must love me. So again, I appreciate that. So yeah, so hopefully that helps. If any folks have others that they've heard about, yeah, definitely put them in the chat. Let me know. I'm always looking for more. I feel really bad because somebody had put in a comment one day, like a couple weeks ago, about one that they had built out for wind turbines. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. And they're like, hey, what do you think about this? And I lost the link. So I have to try and find that again. So um, so yeah, so I feel bad. So Elijah, thanks for coming. Bunch of anonymous LinkedIn users as well. Sometimes you just don't see names, and I'm not sure if that's a like a privacy setting or if it's um, just an issue. So asking anybody attending or speaking besides Oklahoma, I'm not. Of course, there's always with the new King of Tulsa, the the new Sylvester Stallone show. Well, not new. I guess it's what 3 years old at this point. So I just think of Oklahoma now. I have my aunt and uncle are in Oklahoma, so and cousins, of course. So yeah, it's great state. I am really focused on B-sides ICS at this point because I think next year we're gonna have 6, 7 events globally, which is really exciting. So But yeah, have a great show if you go. I also ran the local B-sides here in Greenville, South Carolina, up until this year, or up to this year, including this year. So, and then have stepped down because of B-sides ICS. So, but yeah, Eliza, thanks for coming. And then someone on LinkedIn says, uh, "Are there any prerequisites for Grid?" So Grid is, I always say, it is the granddaddy of OT or ICS cybersecurity certifications. If you're not familiar, so in the certification world, there's two paths, and SANS is one. The SANS certifications is, especially if you go to the SANS course, right? It's 5, 6 days, and you're just drinking from the fire hose. Everybody says you're just learning so much information all day and doing the labs and learning more and doing the labs. The first time I took grade with Rob, it was back in 2017. And I just remember, being in class, sucking everything in. I sat in the front row. I was just on the edge of my seat the entire time. And then I would go back to my hotel room and read. And then we'd go back. And then you're doing like the CTF at night. Um, so, and they were much less, expensive back then. Today it's about 11,000 US dollars to take the course. Now you don't have to take the course to take the exam. I think the exam by itself is almost 1,000 US dollars, which is crazy to think about, to just for the test. But um, for grid's a tricky test. Again, I took mine back in 2017, so it's been a while. Um, but I would say you have to have some practical experience to take grid almost always. Um, Even like I'm a really good test taker, but if I didn't have some practical experience at that point, I don't think I would have been able to pass the test. So but yeah, and if you don't take the class, of course, it's hard not having the book, right, to understand what they're testing on. You can look at the outline on online, and I've known people that have done this with like the GICSB, right, the entry level SANS OT ICS cybersecurity certification. Um, and take the outline and then just do a bunch of research on those different topics and then go take the test and pass it. And I've known people that have done that with a lot of different SANS exams. I don't know if you could do that with grid. Grid is just eight different beasts. I think you really do have to have some hands-on experience, but and then also to dive into uh, the the books and the content and the outline. So yeah, hopefully that helps. But yeah, grid is not, it's not something you can just jump into. You really got to nail all the fundamentals. You have to have that knowledge like at the GICSP level. And then there's a lot of, right, there's some basic forensics and a lot of other different concepts that are all thrown in. So definitely a lot. So best class I've ever taken. Like I love, the way Rob like actually presents, but he also just tells stories. So you can't, that's one thing. If you take the class, right? I always tell people take it with Rob. He only teaches it once a year at the summit, the SANS ICS summit, which is in June every year in Orlando. But that's the best way because you can sit there, one of the world thought leaders in the space, and just ask him questions, right? And he's more than happy to have those conversations with you. So hopefully that helps. So, Michaela, thanks for coming. Other LinkedIn user, yeah. Oh, it's Veterans Day. I always think of Veterans Day as on a Monday for some reason. But yes, thank you to, at least in the United States. So yeah, thanks to all the everybody who's served in the military. So to appreciate that. So. Good. Let me know if you have any other questions. Again, so we've talked a little bit about using LinkedIn, right, to be able to, connect with others, right? You want to follow and connect with others because that's going to help build out your feed. Remember, if there's certain people that you want to see their post every single day, you have to go in to their profile and click on that bell and say, show me all of their posts. Because again, otherwise, you don't. it's very rare for you to actually see. And I it drives me crazy that because there's certain people like, yeah, I want to see what they're saying. Do I really have to go through there? I thought that's why I follow them, or connect with them. But that's not what LinkedIn does. So let me reshare out LinkedIn because I do want to go through some ideas around the actual LinkedIn profile page and some things to think about. So it doesn't matter, again, if you're just trying to connect with others, are you trying to find a new job or a new role? But there's definitely some things that get talked about a lot, right? Over, time and time again, right? So if you're looking at your profile, right, and then I'm just going to go into this one real quick, that there's a couple of ways you can approach this, right? And one thing they'll always tell you is keep your banner here very clean and very simple. If you want an easy way to make them, I use Canva, and you think you can actually use Canva for free. It's canva.com. And I mean, if you pay for it, it's like $20 a month, right? But you have like this whole little, multimedia graphic studio, and it's just super easy to use. Because I don't have patience for this type of stuff, but it's really easy to use. And so you can actually put in like LinkedIn banner, and it'll actually pull up the exact size you need. So it's no fuss, no muss, right? It'd say, keep it simple. If you already have a job and you're not looking for something, right? A lot of times they'll say, hey, just put in something that represents who you are, right? So somebody might have a picture of a computer, or they took a picture while they were hiking or on vacation, or, because you don't really care. If you're looking for a role, you might want to make it like a less personal at times, but make it a little bit more cleaner. Same thing if you're trying to connect with others or try to build a community. It's I've seen a lot of these conversations over the last 2.5 years. If once people switch to something very simple, like you can see here, and even like how my picture is very simple, might not be considered professional because I'm not in a suit or tie in this instance, right? But it's got that very simple, solid color. Once people make that switch, you get a lot more traction. So while it's great to have like the fun banner, or like with your um, the vacation photo you had, or sometimes people put their family in it, which just drives me crazy when people post their kids online. But I think you get the idea, right? Keep it clean and simple. Especially if you're trying to connect with others, you want to build a community, or if you're looking for a new role, right? If you're looking for a new role, you might want to make the picture a little bit more professional, um, rather than a black T-shirt, right? Um, a lot of people will talk about like this little tagline that you see here, like what are people going to see? This also gets indexed. So if people are doing searches for keywords, you want to make sure that the keywords that think like recruiters or hiring managers or HR folks are using to run searches, right? If you want them to find you, make sure that those keywords pop up. Um, when you look at, of course, your location, if you're worried about privacy, you can make that very general, right? Some people just have like their country listed. I don't think most people are going to take offense if you don't list that. So you have the options to create like custom URLs. I think you might have to have the paid account for that. The little LinkedIn, I guess, with premium. Yeah. Um, so to be able to do that, right? But I have the thing that, hey, if you want to sign up to my newsletter, right, click here, boom, and then it just takes you to the sign in page. Um, you can see, of course, how many followers, and that's because I actually have, there's a certain setting you have to turn on, where it actually shows followers. Um, a lot of people don't, it's not on by default. You would just see your connections, right? Um, and connections are also counted as followers. Like if somebody connects with you, then it automatically has you has them following you. So that helps. So things to think about though, right? And what people are going to see when they look at your post. The about section is one of those that's really important. Um, Now for me, I have, and I saw somebody do this, and we'll actually talk about, so a couple of people that you'll want to follow, but Jasmine Alec, who's one of the top, LinkedIn uh, folks, right? Teaches about how to grow on LinkedIn. And like, I only, like, I followed him really religiously, like the first probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months when I was posting to really get up and going. And then it gets to the point where I'm like, oh, okay. He, like, he just talks about the same thing over and over again, um, which I get. So, um, but he would be somebody, like, if you're interested in growing a community, or making more connections on LinkedIn, right? He's great to watch, and we'll look at his profile in a second. But I liked how he did his profile, because he said, "Hey, thanks." He took the time to say, "Hey, thank you for checking this out." I do just a very high brief, like, elevator pitch about, this is why I post on LinkedIn. And then, for folks that, want to post, like, for a biography for, like, when I'm speaking at a conference or something. In fact, I need to update this, but I have that um, there, right? So, and then you can actually have this featured section. So you can have posts that you can feature. So I just do one for YouTube, and then I create this one for a link so people can go to my newsletter, right? And then we can see all of our different posts, including our live section, right? Experience is very important, right? Because that's kind of that familiar online part of the resume. So I will always say, and I've heard this from a lot of recruiters, hiring managers will look more at your LinkedIn profile than they will at your resume. So I think that says a lot, right? So that's another big reason why you want to have your LinkedIn profile. At least just keep it simple and clean, but put some effort into it, just like you would your resume, right? So make sure you have your education, your right certifications, any volunteer that you do, right? And right, your skills, and if you have recommendations, right? Honors and more. You get the idea, right? Organizations you're in, right? So remember, hiring managers are going to be looking at this. Also, people that want to connect with you, right? They're going to be looking at it as well, right? I can actually see, right, how many people have looked at my profile, right? And who, right? If you have the paid LinkedIn account, you can actually see who's actually looking at your profile. And then, like, what company are they with, right? What's their title, right? So it's sort of, a lot of people use it for like sales and marketing. Not something I do, but it's definitely a tool that a lot of people use from the sales and marketing perspective. So let me check to see if there's any questions real quick, and then I do want to show you a couple of profiles that you want to check out for different reasons. So, um, so let me see. Let me pull this up. It says, SANS ICS 410 is a fundamental training course, which is good in the market, but could you recommend any free courses which would more or less cover the same? Yeah, I actually get a lot of, so CISA has, I had a post last week, if you scroll through the post. So CISA has their courses, which are online for free, and I get a lot of great feedback from my YouTube course as well. So I can actually show you what that looks like. It's going to be another one where it's a little bit um, kind of behind the scenes. But let me, yeah, share the YouTube, or actually, if I can go here and I can go to my channel, and then you can see, if you go to my channel, looks very much like LinkedIn, right? And then if you go, you can go under playlist, is usually the best place to go. And in there, if you look for the getting started with industrial ICS OT cybersecurity, it says 20 plus hours. It's like 26 hours. um, that a lot of people have told me that they've watched that and used that as a study guide for the GICSP and not taken the course and go past the exam. I am not saying take my class and go pass the exam without taking the. I'm just saying that's what people have told me. So it's for me. I wrote that as I wish I had this class before I took the GICSP class. So I took it back in like 20 or just talking with Justin Stroll who taught it and we were trying to figure out. I think I took it back in like 2013, 2014. So it's 2014. Yeah, so it's been 11 years. So it's been a while. But yeah, definitely check that out. So but that's kind of my version of I guess the GICSP. So but it's I wrote it more like how would I secure OT-ICS cybersecurity at the same time, but it covers a lot of the same topics. So, um, see what are some ways to get leadership interested into teams, getting training and certified. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one. And I always tell people if you work in an environment where you're not getting support for training, it's probably time to look for a new role. Um, and I know that's hard, especially in today's environment. It's very hard to get training budgets. But yeah, I think I am one of those people that you need to invest in your people. You need to make those budgets right available, right? And if you're not training your people, right, how are you going to expect them to get better, right, at defending your environment? And plus, they're just going to leave to go somewhere that does offer training benefits. So, yeah, yeah, I unfortunately I don't have a really good answer. If you do you can best thing I would tell you is reach out to the marketing folks at the training companies that you want to work with, like SANS. If you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I need help, uh, getting my boss to give me money for training," they will more than be happy to help you with that for sure. And that's exactly what I would um, do for sure. So. Yeah, yeah, not necessarily doing profile critiques, but maybe we could do that one time for sure. So, and I'll be around for asking a couple questions or answering a couple of questions as we wrap up. But I did want to talk about a couple of LinkedIn profiles for folks to check out. Depending on your mission, like where you're at kind of in life and what you're using LinkedIn for today, right? So I say if you're looking for a job, and this doesn't matter if it's OT cybersecurity or anything. If you look at so Josh Fulmer, he actually is one of the two recruiters at Dragos. Dragos is kind of one of the larger OT ICS cybersecurity companies. I actually did an interview with him. You'll find on my YouTube channel. I definitely say check it out, right? But he really just focuses on helping people understand, like, how do I get a job? Whether it's in cybersecurity, whether it's in OT, ICS, cybersecurity, a lot of the content he does is around just how do I get a role in OT, ICS, cybersecurity. So he doesn't post as much because I think he's just super busy these days. But when he does, a lot of great content. So he's a great resource if you're looking for a new role. I'd also say another recruiter, Nathaniel Smith. Is also great. We don't have like a lot of real solid recruiters in OT or ICS, and Josh is a little bit, he's of course he's a recruiter for Dragos, just one company. Nathaniel works with a lot of different companies or organizations, so he's another great resource to connect with and reach out to. So yeah, so those are two if you're looking for a job. If you're looking at growing on LinkedIn, if you want to grow a community, I mentioned Jasmine Alec earlier. He was one that I followed again religiously, like the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months that I was posting, right? You can see he's 340,000 connections, right? So obviously the guy knows his stuff, right? Um, there's this guy named Chris Donnelly that I don't even remember how I came across him, other than you can see he's huge on LinkedIn, 1 point almost 2 million people. Um, and he has a class that he offers. And I was like, oh, I wonder how much it costs. It was like $7,000. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be doing that, But he posted about like some of his top students, and it was and you can scroll through his feed, and I was like, wow, I can scroll through their different feeds to see, okay, what are they doing, right? What has helped them grow? And I'm sure there's a lot of cross pollination and they help each other, but you can actually look at those and see. But find creators that you like, and then you can also find what they call outliers, which is find their best posts and put your own take on it. I actually learned this from Mr. Beast of all people, right? He talks about like how he got so big on YouTube was he would find like a YouTube video, right, that somebody had that went really big, right? Let's say they got 1 million views when their average view was like 1,000. And it's like, so that's what they call an outlier, right? It's just huge for that one particular person. So you take that one huge one and then just put your own twist on it. So again, things to consider. So I know we're up against time, but if there's any other questions, again, I'll be uh, looking at any questions. But again, thanks for everybody for comment. I really appreciate it. Hopefully that helps. Again, especially if you're looking for a new role, LinkedIn member is your best friend. I mean, it's mandatory. Without it, you're pretty much dead in the water these days. And hopefully, hey, if you're looking at growing a community, even posting just educational content even helps, right? Make you more attractive to a hiring manager. So things to keep in mind. But Caesar asks, what is the foundation of basics one should develop before their first role? I see more roles in IT cybersecurity than OT. Absolutely. Is it more realistic to start? Yeah, if you ever want to get into OT or ICS cybersecurity, you either need to come from IT cybersecurity or from an engineering automation background, right? So I say most people, especially today, would probably see probably 70% of people moving into OT cybersecurity come from IT cybersecurity, but you really need to master the fundamentals of IT cybersecurity before you're trying to jump into OT cybersecurity. So, yeah. Lastly, is there anything such as too niche and should you keep your profile general? So, well, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're looking for a role, right, you want it to, I would say, I would keep it very uh, general, right? And like IT cybersecurity. Now, if you're applying to, you want to be an incident response, right? Your profile should all be about incident response if that's really what you want to do, right? But again, it's kind of looking for that position that you're out for, right? If you're just applying to a bunch of more general positions, keep it general. You want to be a malware analyst, your profile should be all about being a malware analyst, though. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If you want to grow a community, then people will say, if you keep it general, right, you'll bring in more people, but you can also niche it down and also grow a community that's more concentrated and more focused. So it just really depends on what your end goal is. So, but hopefully that helps answer the question. I know I could sit there and think, think through that for 40 hours. It's one of those that it's a simple question, but not so simple at the same time. Sarah asks, what about OT juniors candidates who have been in IT for some years and want to jump into OT? Yeah, that's the one where if you're in IT cybersecurity like I was and you want to get into OT or ICS cybersecurity, um, couple of things to consider. I think the best as, and you'll see some of my posts about this is, and usually I have one about every 2 weeks or so, um, for um, like if you want to get into OT, ICS cybersecurity from IT cybersecurity, here's what I would do, right? So work with those virtual labs that we talked about, right? Take my YouTube course, take the CISA courses, right? They're all free, right? Start looking at getting certified. Even the first ISA 62443 exam, which they call Security Essentials, right? Just that one alone, if you're new to the industry, that's a great one to take. CompTIA will have SecOT Plus, but that doesn't come out for like another year, right? Um, or probably 9 months at this point. So, but yeah, definitely work with virtual labs, right? Take those courses, right? Especially they're free. Look at starting to get certified. Again, the ISA 62443 Security Essentials or Fundamentals. Sorry, it's like $2,200. If you're not an ISA member, if it's like 1,600 if you are an ISA member. So you spend 160 bucks to become a member. You get that it's cheaper to do that and then take the class and take the course or the exam. You have to take the class to take the exam. That's the one thing we don't really like about it. But so those are a couple of things I would suggest. But you can also go back through some of my posts and you'll see there's probably every other week or so there's a hey, if you're coming from IT cybersecurity, do these things. But those are some of the, I guess the other thing I could say, connect with people on LinkedIn that work in the community, find people in your area, find those people in your area and say, hey, can you give me just a tour of, where you work? And let me see kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Even just that type of exposure goes a long way. Like I talked about OT, ICS, cybersecurity for 2 years before I stepped foot on my first power plant. And then after that, it was just like my world, had exploded in a good way. And, it's just when you have electricity, like just flowing through you, it was pretty amazing. So hopefully that answers your question. But thanks again for coming, Sarah. And thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. If you're still out there, but again, thanks for coming. I'm going to see you next Tuesday. I'm going to get that link out today and not wait till the last minute. So, but again, hopefully I'll see everybody next Tuesday at noon. If not, of course, before then, you know where to find me on LinkedIn or YouTube, and feel free to ping me there. So I'll see everybody.